All right, y'all. What's going on? It's your boy Izzy Bake Oven. What's up, y'all? So today it's a little different. All right. Now, yeah, I used to hear ads run through my stuff for other people. All right. This is probably the first real time the ad is for me. All right. So PSA, Prodigy Sport Advantage Stations, has expanded far beyond just the podcast. It is now a writing service. All right. And at that, a ghostwriting service. So we do it anonymously and take care of your needs. All right. Homework assistant, product and profile descriptions, grant writing, resumes, cover letters, templates, books, ghostwriter book too. Anything you can think of, articles, all that good stuff. PSA the Ghostwriter Solution can do it. So go over to PSA thepodcast.com and you can see all the services there with all their descriptions. Okay, because I know I missed some. And also you can reach out to me at theprodigyperspective@gmail.com and we can take care of all of that for you too. Peace. What's going on, everybody? It is episode, what is this? I'm losing 11. It's episode 11. And last week was a good week, wasn't it? And my boy Trent, he's going up, and I'm glad I told you I got that eye. I be catching people right before they get on. And so then when I get on, we'll be on somebody red carpet talking about remember when. I don't know if that was a prophetic word to myself, but I'm going to take it. All right. Anyway, this episode was actually inspired a lot from a piece of the conversation from last episode. This rarely happens unless it's like a series. Oh, the series. I'm not going to drop the name just yet, but I have a series coming soon. It'll be after the 13th episode. I will go into a series. And that's a good one. It's kind of where I'm at in life right now, which I like about my podcast. That's kind of how it goes, is wherever I'm at in life right now, it's kind of the story being told. So we'll get into that as we get along in the weeks to come. But for today's episode, we're talking about empathy. And I have empathy, but I struggle with showing it as much as I should. And certain things just kind of, it's kind of hard. So this is kind of a transparent episode, and me kind of in most episodes I call myself to the carpet and call myself out, but this one I think is really one I really do that a lot, and maybe even questions are asked to me to maybe even see why I'm like that in certain ways. So let's get into the meme for the week. So the meme reads, "This is terrible, but it's the truth. Please don't start crying in front of me. Please don't. I'll probably make it worse." It was a meme by Jerry, which is one of my inspirations. A meme by Jerry from Tom and Jerry. And he's like, no, it's Tom, actually, the cat. And he's like kind of like smiling like this, like awkward, like that awkward smile. And he's like, it said when somebody start crying in front of me and it's like, you want some water? Like that's how I be. I don't know what to say. And I make it worse. Obviously last week's episode, as I was called out by Trent, as he was just kind of like, I don't know about that one, and basically saying, that's something that's not there. But that's the point of this podcast. We get to the roots of those things and try to analyze stuff. So, I'm not perfect. I'm not an expert. So I try to go find people that are in those areas and at least have some expertise, if not the expert. Another form of inspiration comes from Bill Bullard, a quote that says, "The highest form of knowledge is empathy." And then from Colossians 3:12, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with kindness, compassion, humility, gentleness, and patience." All right. So now let's do all that and let's go into my next segment, which is happy hour. All right, so for today's happy hour, let's first start off with my open, transparent discussion about my lack of empathy. So I believe mine honestly comes from awkwardness. I'm very, very, very awkward, as social as I am. I'm very awkward. People don't know that. People don't believe me when I tell them I used to be a mute. And I don't know what year it was I found my voice, but when I started talking, I ain't stopped. And, so I think a lot of times I just be awkward. Like I don't know what to say. And then I make stuff worse unintentionally. So like, if somebody's like, and then my facial expressions are terrible. They're horrible. So if you go and you just bust out crying, I'll be like, I'll probably make just that face. And it's just like, it's like you might swing on me. Because like, why would you make that face? Or you think you're trying to help and make it worse. I had a situation. This is terrible. One of my students, we laughed though. I had seen some marks on her arm and I had never seen that before. So I said, what happened to your arm? She was just like, oh, and she was kind of like rubbing it. And she was just like, oh yeah, I was in a real bad car accident. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, consoling her, whatever. And then I was like, her friend was over there. She was like, I was like, why are you looking like that? She said, well, she don't like talking about it. I said, oh, okay. So then I made the comment, y'all know that TikTok song where it was like, well, I was like, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. They bust out laughing. Horrible timing. It was funny, but it was just like, and then she had made a comment to me. That's when I knew I was God's favorite. I was like, okay, well, yeah. I was like, that could have went really bad. But, it's been times where it has gone really bad. And I'll think about it probably as this episode goes along. I have a lack of empathy with little kids when they be crying. It gets on my nerves. Like, I usually work with middle school and older and the education field. So when it's those times I have to do with real small children, I just be like, and they just be telling me he hit me. I be like, okay. I say the name, hey, Timmy, stop hitting her. Or he'll stop hitting her, keep your hands to you. So I just be so, it's like somebody hit a switch and I just like go from, like, I hate that I'm like that with this, but I just be so over it. I just, but I know understanding in certain cases with little kids, it's kind of a patience thing too. Now, I don't have empathy for druggies. And let me explain what I mean by a druggie. Even though, because the topic of addiction can range, right? When I say a druggie, I don't mean someone who's strung out. I mean your homeboy or your homegirl. They got to get her fix or her blunt or her weed or her edible or something. Now, you do that. That's what you do. But they get on my nerves because it's like you'll do anything to get some weed, but you don't have that same energy for a job or for a business or for your goals or for you trying to pursue the person of your dreams. But you got it for that. That just irritates me. I might not be in the headspace with that, the best headspace with that, but I just be so blue. I just be so blue. I just be like, really? Even when I did have my years of smoking, like y'all know I don't smoke no more. That was years ago. But even when I did, I still despised stoners. And it just got on my nerves so bad because it's just like, really? Now, of course, I had some productive friends that were that, but it was most of them, it was just like, you can't do nothing without that weed. And then have the audacity to say you don't have an addiction. That's why I said my comment about addiction range, because I'm not talking about somebody strung out on like, that hard stuff, although weed is low, but you get what I mean. But yeah, that used to irritate me. You know what else gets on my nerves? And this really ain't empathy related. It's just a hot topic and a happy hour, my happy hour segment topic. Have you always noticed people without cars always getting around? And it ain't Uber and it ain't the bus. They always finding a ride to something. I had a friend right after I graduated college, and they were setting up for a spring break trip. They orchestrated the whole trip, said who gonna drive, who gonna do this, and didn't have a car. Orchestrated where we went and everything. Gave us a bad destination. Didn't have no car, and they said we're gonna go here. And you know what's even stupid of all of them? I let them. I let them. I don't either get fooled by people, and I let them manipulate me in my car to go somewhere I didn't want to go. 12 hours. Lies. 8. Was it 12? 12 hours. And you know that they like me. But it is what it is. I'm still alive. All right, y'all. So I done enough ranting for today's happy hour segment, but I do have a great guest today, and this person I feel like is very philosophical. I like everything they stand for. I think that they have a good head on their shoulders, and I think that they're gonna drop a lot of gems, and they one of those best kept secrets. So let me go ahead and introduce my guest for today, my boy. What's going on?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing today?
I can't complain. Just I'm thankful for another day. Honestly,
Good, good. So I can see your name. I know your name, but for my audio only people, can you tell the people what's your name, where you from, and where you live now?
my name is Shawn Savoie. I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana, and now I live in Houston, Texas.
All right, tell us what you do for a living.
Uh, I'm an author. I'm a poet. I do speaking engagements as well when time allows. And in the near future, I want to get into a mentorship, but not now because I don't want to spread myself too thin. Like I basically like to focus on one thing at a time and just work on that.
Okay, so you were born and raised in Louisiana, but moved to Texas when you met your wife. How has that transition influenced your perspective on life and writing?
Life is just I had to learn how to share. I had to share my life with her and share her with God. Because I wasn't big on sharing and opening up, but marriage helped me with that. It helped me just to open up and be vulnerable. Because I struggled with that for a real long time. Like, but writing helped me, but my wife helped me express it and bring it to life and do it on a regular basis.
Okay, that's good, good, good. So, um, it was kind of like a it was kind of like a give and take in this situation because with you even said that you had troubles being vulnerable and opening up, but you've always had a gift for writing. So how long have you known about that gift of writing? Have you written since you was a child, or did it come later in life, or how did that come about?
I probably in the fourth grade, I knew I was talented in the fourth grade when we did a poem about, I think it was about Martin Luther King. We did a poem, and I basically won a contest, and they allowed me to share my poem over the intercom system with the entire school. But I didn't take it seriously until I was at my lowest point in life. And that's when I really took it seriously and just started writing. But it wasn't until my my healing journey is when I really took it seriously. When I found out that I was the problem in most of my relationships because my lack of empathy, and that's when I took my writing seriously.
Okay. So now y'all, before we get too far ahead, y'all see it's two people. He's definitely grown past it and he's opening up more, but his lack of empathy more so was from the angle of closed off. Well, mine is semi like that as well. But the difference is with me, I think he maybe doesn't talk enough, and then I talk too much, and they both can, and they both can be issues. So it's good to see that if somebody will maybe say, "Well, I ain't like him, I ain't like him," but this is two different angles from the same, kind of thing. So, can you share the inspiration behind your self-published book, Flight of the Black Butterfly, and how you decided to use poetry as a medium to empathize with Black women?
Well, it started. Let me see. Well, first I have to talk about my past relationships for that. Like my first relationship, everything was magical, perfect, starting out perfect. Then we hit a roadblock from our first argument. She did something to make me mad, but me being a bad communicator, I didn't tell her that I was mad at her. And let's say it happened on a Monday, I went a few days without talking to her, and if I did talk to her, I only it was one word answers. And about Friday came, and I just woke up and she was crying, and just crying and crying, and I'm like, why are you crying? Did she pouring her heart out to me? She telling me why she crying, how she feel alone, she feel invisible, she feel unloved, and she just feel just unwanted, and I knew I caused it, I knew I was the cause, but I didn't know how to empathize with her. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And I just basically just hugged her. We went to sleep, woke up the next day, and just went on as if nothing happened. And then over time, we had more arguments and more arguments. And then I jumped in, and then we eventually broke up and just got tired of the same cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
then I got into another relationship. And once again, everything was back magical, perfect. Hit another argument. But this time, like my new girlfriend, this is why I realized I had a problem because my new girlfriend, she said the same thing. Like when we first got in the argument, she said the same thing that my ex said, verbatim, same exact thing. And I realized, I'm like, yeah, Shawn, you are the problem, you know. And then I just eventually we split, and I just healed. I googled empathy because even though I knew the definition, I still didn't actually know what it was, because I didn't know how to express it, show it, or anything. So I googled it. I found a good article that taught me how to practice it, and I put that into practice. I just basically played arguments that I had in the past with my past girlfriends. I played the argument in my head, and I wrote poems like to respond, like how would I respond or how should I respond to her feelings, to her anger or anything that. And that's basically how I wrote my book. And I just kept writing and writing until I just couldn't write anymore.
Okay. So, quick summary. So, I'm glad, first of all, healing is real, you know. And then when you had said a few things that you said, when you said a comment about you heard the exact same thing verbatim, different people. So, we obviously know that was the Holy Spirit trying to tell you, like, look, this is what the vibes is.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that as a writer myself, you took your art and put it. Now that's one thing I've never really been good at. Like I could do a poem, but that ain't my thing. I'm like the story person, you
Mhm.
know. Like, and of course we all know poems can tell stories, but like just how poetry and how to, I can do it with this force. So it's good that you turn into poetry. You know, people turn into all forms of art. Some people can do, songs and raps and um, TV shows, even. I'm more that tracked than that, but they're still both effective, and they both are ways to express yourself. And and reality too. You hate to be you got to be a little shallow. You can make money off of it. You know what I mean? Make money
Yeah.
off your pain, and really, in this case, your pain and your healing. Because especially if you go. So at this point, I could ask: do you think that you've overcome not having empathy for others?
Uh, yes. And, well, overcome not having empathy.
Yeah, not having empathy for others.
Uh, Sometimes I slip back into my old ways. Sometimes, like, uh, sometimes I just have a tendency to just go back into my shell. But I'm able to realize that and just fix it right on the spot. But for the most part, I try to wake up with empathy every day on my mind.
Well, that's the thing too. What people got to understand, it's a process, and the first step, which I commend you on, is being self-aware. Because there was a time you wouldn't have been. You was like, "Ain't no, it's you, it ain't me." So it's good that you are self-aware, and clearly, I believe that who you with now will definitely help with that. That's a lot of personality,
Oh
so
yeah.
I know that's a lot of emotions and things that she can bring out and help with that. I'm sure she's helped a lot. But that's the thing, P. I have to understand too. Nothing happens overnight, and there will be times you revert back to your old self, but you have to fall down and then get back up. And it sounds cheesy, but you got to try again and keep the train going. Um, okay, so I'm going to ask you a few words, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. There is no right or wrong answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. When you hear the word empathy, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Uh, Listening,
Mm.
actively listening,
Okay. And when you hear the word empath, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
feelings.
So the definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And then it says empath is a person with the paranormal ability to apprehend the mental emotional state of another individual. Now, I'm going to say this and I'll get into it later because it might be a little controversial. I'm going to explain why I don't believe people should refer to themselves as empaths. Now, I'm going to give that later. Y'all don't agree with it in the audience. That's on you. But trust me, I got a reason why I say it. All right. So now let's move into the next segment, which is what does this have to do with mental health? All right. And as we know, because we had the haters try to say it still have nothing to do with mental health. Well, it has to do now. All right. So as someone who communicates empathetically through your poetry, how have you seen this empathy positively affect the mental health of your readers, your listeners, families, family, anybody close to you, anything? How have you seen it transform or help people?
It just it. Some of them couldn't believe that a man wrote it, and
Mm,
they just basically thanked me for just, I guess, noticing them.
mm.
Like just like one of my cousins, she was like just thank for just seeing me. And we haven't talked for years, but she was just like it's glad to be noticed, and seen. And like for some it just helped them going through for some it just helped them going through their current battles, like anything they may be going through currently. Like because I cover all topics: heartbreak, love, healing, lupus, um, social injustice, uh, just about everything I cover in my book.
Okay. Um, so was you covering that in the book? And you found yourself creatively basically doing things like this. Will the books have sequels? Could you see them going past books? Could you see them maybe spurring into like, do you go, well, let me, okay, so we're gonna ask about the books first. So I'm gonna ask that first before I ask my next question. Do you see them turning into like sequels and branching off to other areas too?
For my first book, I want to do a. I don't want to call it a movie. It's kind of like a. I think I have a total of 106 poems, but I want to give each poem like its own visual. You know,
Mm.
and I eventually want to do that in the future. And like I said, I don't want to call it a movie because I don't think it'll be the length of a movie. But that's what I eventually want to do, and just record it, find actors, and just get it out and share it.
Right. I can't think of the technical term of it because it's not a movie and it's not a music video. But
Yes.
I get what you're saying. It's for sure a visual, and I can see, the vision for just some of the things that you talk about in the book. So let me ask this. You like would you consider yourself a creative?
A creator?
Yeah, creative. Would you see yourself that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And if it was one thing, I'll give you two things you will want people to take from your works. What are you besides one? I could give you what you said though, as far as that you said people were like they felt like they were seen. Um, is there anything else I gave you one for yourself. Is another thing you would want people to take from your works?
Yeah, that they're not alone, and the trouble doesn't last always. Like we go through storms, but the key word is go through because we don't stay there. There's always a better day coming. So just trust the process.
Okay, good. All right, so I got some resources that I always do. So with empathy and how this can affect your mental health. So increased empathy can reduce stigma. According to a study published in the journal BMC Medicine, empathy training for healthcare providers can help reduce stigma towards individual mental health conditions. This shift in attitudes can lead to better support and treatment outcomes. It says empathy improves therapeutic relationships. Research published in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology suggests that empathetic therapeutic relationships significantly contribute to positive mental health outcomes for patients. Clients who perceive their therapist as empathetic tend to have better treatment, engagement, adherence, and satisfaction. Now, before I go to the next one, since you've been more empathetic and more opening, have you seen the people closest to you maybe have better engagement with you, or maybe you can tell that they're a little more like relaxed and more open?
Yeah, they are a little more relaxed. Like they'll talk with their hands more, like and touch me more, like on my shoulders, and I kind of got to get used to that, because I'm like I wasn't used to that, and they just yeah they are more comfortable, and I'm more comfortable as well. Like I'm more expressive as well, and just more open.
Yeah, I'm definitely a communicator, talker. I think with me it's more of I don't fully express, which I think maybe you can relate to. As much as I talk and as much as I communicate, which surprises people, I don't say everything because part of me still feels like people don't all the way care. So they be, so that's partially for me why I haven't always been so like fully transparent and open. And I think that it's made it, I noticed, but me personally, I ain't gonna lie, it ain't got nothing to do with empathy. I just don't like people touching me. So like when people get to touch me, I'm like, like I've had people like, like do like plant my stomach. Just keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah,
I just my face gives it away. I'm like, I don't really even shake people's hands unless I have to, because everybody don't be washing their hands. I be watching people, but we're gonna get off to something else if I get into that. So, empathy, for those that didn't know, also promotes emotional well-being. A study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies found a positive association between empathy and subjective well-being. Individuals who scored higher empathy reported higher levels of satisfaction and happiness. Now, here's the negative sides of empathy or not having it. Lack of empathy can negatively affect your mental health because a study published in the Journal of Research and Personality explored the link between empathy and depression. It says the findings indicated that individuals who score lower in empathy were more likely to experience symptoms of depression. Empathy reduces psychological distress. A meta analysis published in the Journal of Counseling Psychology revealed that empathy is inversely related to psychological distress. Higher levels of empathy were associated with lower levels of distress, including symptoms of anxiety and depression. It's interesting to see how everything kind of aligns. And it makes sense, especially when I hear about the psychological distress and how it's related to that. Because when you were going through your lack of empathy stages, did you find yourself, when I think of psychological distress, I think of like a war in your mind. So when you, because I know I did, when you were at the most or the least empathetic, did you find yourself like in your head a lot, like just like a raging like war almost?
yeah. It's like it was me versus me. Like
Hmm.
uh, it's like I know what to do, but I fight myself at doing it. Whether it's out of stubbornness, pride, like I knew what to do, I just fought myself. Like I got in my own way by just staying in my head, and just thinking of a million outcomes or a million ways it would go. But that didn't do anything but waste time and just hurt the other person more. Really.
Definitely, definitely, and I get it, and it definitely can, because it's like in some cases it's maybe like a you feel like I'm letting them win. It's like a pride thing in some cases, because then it may be like, oh, I'm letting them win, and it ain't even like that. But if you don't have a full revelation of your identity, I'm learning. And if you really fighting with other maybe like mental strongholds and things, it can be hard to fully just embrace. And I think that some people have to do the work, but then they also have to like get lost in just it's just hard to explain, but like in love and like in affection. And
Which
even with me, like some people who lack empathy, were never shown affection as a child. And me, that's all I was shown. So it was just like it was hard when I was like, and then I just started a lot of stuff I didn't care about. Like when I'm people was just, the rages of emotion. I'm just like that's the literal face, body language, everything. I guess there's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's part of my story. Lack of emotion, well, lack of affection as a child, and I guess that's where it started from because like tears to my mama, no, we couldn't cry, we couldn't do none of that. She would straight up and say, uh, "I'm not raising any sisters," like wiping tears. Tears don't do you any good, type of stuff. She was she was a hard woman, you know, didn't express herself or didn't open up. But it wasn't until I got older I realized the way she was because well I realized the reason why she was the way she was because she was raped as a child by her older cousin and that shut her off to the world. She was closed off, and that eventually trickled into my childhood with me and
Mhm.
my siblings, and it eventually just formed who I am. You know, well, that's when my struggle with empathy began, probably in the household.
Definitely. And then it's crazy that you said it because that's this. I like how this generation we kind of call out our parents in a sense, like that wasn't right. Where their generation, it was like the adult is always right. So
Mhm.
and with us, we're like, no, that ain't right, or no, that's not how you do that. My it's kind of it's sad, but it's kind of funny, low key, like how my stepdad, his side of the family, they weren't allowed to cry. And so even at the funeral of his mother,
Mhm.
my mama told me that the people had water guns and would spray people if they started crying. Now, what kind of stuff is that? That's extreme. That's ridiculous. Like the whole don't cry thing, that's extreme. And I've dealt with that in some instances too. But I'm going to shoot you in the face with a water gun as a grown person if you start crying because your mama died.
That's wrong.
I think the screws ain't in because that's not okay. That's and the fact that y'all think that's okay is weird to me. Um, Now this is a question you may or may not have an in-depth answer, but can you discuss how you think that empathy plays a role or plays a crucial role in addressing mental health issues within our community, especially as Black men?
It's just empathy. Well, in order to empathize, you got to be vulnerable and open. So it'll it'll help us create like positive relationships and bonds. Like we don't have to walk past each other like without speaking.
Mm,
And just give each other a mean look and just walk without speaking. Empathy, empathy open the doors just for just to be open, care for one another, and just bond and just connect.
definitely. I think that even when we look at examples of just other areas, like it's so much easier when we just are cool versus trying to be against each other or let society turn us against each other. Because I know once we all together, and if we as a Black men as a fort, we unstoppable. And I think that's why so many attacks against that and so much confusion and things in those areas. So all right, good stuff. Now let's move into the next segment. I challenge that. So we're gonna kind of challenge everything we've been saying and see what we can come up with. So when are times do you believe that a person shouldn't or maybe should question when they show empathy towards others?
Uh, I know for me is when I give you good advice, honest advice, and you go again like if I love you and I respect you and I'm close to you, I would give you the utmost advice, the best honest advice, and you go against it, and you just end up in a bad situation. Then I get that phone call from you. Then I probably get a phone call.
especially when it comes to them relationships when you tell people to stay away from.
Mhm.
So I know I can deal with that. So the first one it says is boundaries. According to Boundaries on Psychology Today and Interpersonal Relationships, it is important to respect individuals' boundaries when they're going through personal or emotional challenges. It says respecting boundaries is crucial for maintaining healthy relationships and promoting individual well-being. And it says it's best to honor those people's wishes. Then I think I know the answer, but I want you to tell the people: do you have strong boundaries with people?
As far as what?
Boundaries as far as what's a good example? So say for instance, like, oh, I'm not gonna do what's a good one? What's a good one? Boundaries as far as an example of I'm not gonna allow this person to dump everything on me on a regular basis. I'm not gonna let these. We've had the discussion. I'll give you maybe once or twice to discuss the same thing. Then maybe the next time we need to discuss a solution. Like we not finna keep talking about the same negative things as far as people dumping, toxic stuff on you. Dealing with, telling you maybe how you should do things. Just in any area, in any of those areas.
Uh, I don't think so. Like if I don't know, I guess I'm too nice. Like I'll let somebody say something 100 times,
Mm,
but I have a way of like if I don't want to hear it, then I have a way of tuning it out. Like basically because like a lot of people like to play the victim, about
mm-hmm.
saying the same thing over and over. Like maybe like a sad story, like I can't pay this month, I can't pay this month, and it's a recurring thing.
You the problem.
I'll sit there and listen, but as far as like me turning them away, no, I don't turn them away. But I will listen. But I probably won't act on it, but I'll listen.
Yeah, they over here complaining about money. Yeah, I hear you. That's funny. All right, the second one says emotional exhaustion. It says, according to building resilience for future healthcare challenges, individuals can reach a state of emotional exhaustion or burnout when they may struggle to provide support or empathy to others. And it says it's best to recognize these symptoms, and that basically, exhaustion is real. Today drained me. I remember that clip of the lady in that meme and video. She's like, "Today drained me." Like it's the schools definitely kids is a little different, but like adults, I just be like, I can't listen to certain people no more. It's certain friends I used to have. I'm glad we fell out because like it got to the point where I'm on the phone, and this is terrible, y'all. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm looking into the camera. Maybe it's me. I had one friend. Every time she called me, it was always something. I remember one time she called and it was several times she would just bust out into tears. And I used to be like, it just got to the point where it was every time I talk to you, something is wrong. At that point, I don't believe I can have empathy for you because at this point, you the problem. It's always you. It's never them. It's never nothing ever goes your way. Nothing. What you not doing? I have to question that. And people can be draining and try to use you all up. I need my energy to fight my demons and my own problems. I can give it to you sometime, but I can't do that every single day. So, what would be your stance to a person who thinks like me in that area? What would you say?
Uh, I don't know. Thank God for patience. I have a lot of it. I probably I probably be one of the most patient people on this earth. Honestly, me the way I deal with it, like I said, I just listen. Like I just listen and I don't like if it continues and continues. I don't offer empathy, because I know they're coming again with another story and another story. But I just offer sympathy. I just say I probably say like they call me with another story. I basically say it'll be all right, or just it's just the way they are. Just the way the world works.
Mhm.
Like I just learned how to use sympathy to just shorten the conversations with them, you know. Because like I read an article that said empathy connects us, but sympathy divides us, you know. And I didn't see how true it was until I just started doing it, you know. For like basically for the people who always call with their same stories or same drama, you know, and I just gave them sympathy.
Okay. This next one, which kind of is a nice segue because it says personal triggers. And it says, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, there may be situations or topics that trigger emotional distress or trauma for individuals. In such cases, it is important to approach empathetic conversations with sensitivity and caution. Practice such as trauma-informed care highlights the importance of creating safe and supportive environments for individuals who have experienced trauma. So, like I said earlier, I don't like dealing with people that's always something wrong with them or people that's always lying. Or I think of like, say, for instance, maybe not you, but just an example. If somebody had maybe struggled with um, lust and somebody's always coming to them telling them certain things about that, and maybe they're not fully moved on from it, so maybe they like, I don't want to keep discussing this with you, and you know, you might be tempted to go back down that lane, you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think of stuff like that too. So now let me move into what I said earlier. I said that you shouldn't refer to yourself as an empath. So because I hear a lot of people say it a lot, and I actually learned this recently. It said empath and why you shouldn't consider yourself that. The definition I mentioned earlier is one because it said, what's the word? It says paranormal. Paranormal, I actually think of ghosts. Ghosts don't exist for those that don't know. And because they're not ghosts, but you know, but the synonym for empath is psychic or intuitive. And I'm a firm believer that words have power. And also, empath, when you say something over yourself, you come into agreement with it. So if you're telling people I'm an empath, empaths are known for to encounter emotional exhaustion, and I can feel the energy and whatever they're going through. Now I'm going through. Here's the thing. I want to have empathy for you, but I don't want to absorb what you're going through. There is a difference. If y'all don't take nothing else from this episode, take that. Now, as stated by Judith Orloff, it says in her article Psychology Today, the trademark of an empath is feeling and absorbing other people's emotions because of their high sensitivities. These people filter the world through their intuition and have a difficult time intellectualizing their feelings. This aligns with your understanding that being an empath goes beyond the standard definition of empathy. Now, before I keep going, what's your take on that?
I don't wish that on anybody. That must be exhausting, you know, just to just to feel like what, like, 'cause you never know what other people are going through, you know, like, and just to feel their pain. That's, I don't know. That would be unbearable, like for me at least.
Did you ever watch X-Men growing up?
A few of them. I saw a few movies.
Well, I think of when I think of the super empath was I don't know if that's what she was based off of. That would make sense. I think of the character Rogue, and this was a character in the show who if she touched you, she could absorb your powers, but she
Mhm.
also could absorb your memories, in some cases your accent, in some cases your feelings and emotions. So when I think of her as like the super empath, and like she would sometimes have like mental breakdowns and stuff because of it.
Mhm.
So in a sense, that's what I think about when I think of empaths, because you absorbing all this stuff from other people and you coming into agreement with being a psychic, and we all know about that. So it's like slow your roll. It then says that empaths not only understand and share their feelings with others, but they also feel these emotions themselves. This heightened sensitivity often extends to their environment. Um, they may experience physical discomfort when other people are in pain or feel stressed during the presence of a tense individual. The empathetic experience is more intense and more direct than comic common empathetic responses, which can often lead to overwhelming feelings. Therefore, while empathy is shared understanding and resonance with the feelings of others, being an empath signifies a deeper connection where individuals experience the emotions and energies in their own physical state. I don't want that. That just sounds like a spell to me. I don't want that. And maybe I'm being dramatic. I get we supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep, but at what cost?
Cost of it'll probably cost them their sanity.
I agree. I agree. It'll cost you your sanity. It'll cost your time. Time is money. And I'm trying to be rich. All right, y'all. So let's move into the next segment, which is the weekly sabbatical. And we know this is a segment where we just kind of reflect, reminisce on some things. So, my question to you, looking at your Instagram handle, right? Underscore wrongs, it seems to carry a deeper meaning. Can you tell us about why you chose that name?
Just at first, I just every write and share all my mistakes. You know, just make myself accountable, acknowledge them, speak them out loud. You know, and just that's basically why I wrote my book, uh, to show the women in the past that I grew. I now know what empathy is. It's just my apology to the women I hurt, and it's my apology to all black women, honestly.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. So, you mentioned briefly that you do spoken word poetry and you've done it as speaking engagements. So how did you get into that aspect of your career and what impact do you hope to make through these performances?
It was honestly my wife. She said I'm just comfortable with writing and standing in the background, But she basically said like people need to hear my voice, People need to hear what I have to say and just share my light with the world. And I first did it in I think 2020. I did it in Vegas, and I've been doing it ever since. Every city we go to, I just hop on Eventbrite, just look for a speaking engagement and go there. And sometimes I get invited because over the time, like I met a couple other poets, and sometimes they invite me to something they have going on, and I'll come and attend.
Okay. Eventbrite is the goat, y'all, just in case y'all didn't know. It's definitely good for whatever you're looking for in any city. Um, Now, one of your dreams, you mentioned it earlier about the mentorship. So one of your dreams is to start a mentorship for young boys. Um, can you discuss why you think this is important and what do you hope to achieve through this initiative?
It's important because I was headed in the wrong direction at some point in my life, and then I was rerouted by my uncle. He made me come live with him. I joined the military. I just traveled the world. If I would have stayed where I was, then I wouldn't be here to this day. And he just taught me lessons. Taught me lessons, gave me advice. Like I believe if he didn't intervene, then my life would have been a lot different. You know, and I just want to just that's my way to repay him. Just help others. And just help them any way I can.
Okay. So paying it forward basically. And
Yes.
that's good to see too. And paying it to the kids because it's like I hate those people that feel like, oh, if you're a grown person, you damage goods, you can't be fixed. Anything can be healed, delivered, changed, transformed as long as you're breathing. But I am a firm believer, though, it's best to prioritize the children, get them early so that they don't have to unpack and go through all of what we went through. So it's good to see that. And I'm believing that that you're going to be able to get that going. So, as always, I give y'all some tips and tricks on after doing sound research for this episode and for any decision that we trying to get you to do. and emphasize in this case, and obviously that would be, making the decision to be more empathetic. And here are some ways to go about it. Here are some strategies to go about it with research, and some of which, um, coincidentally, we are ready to discuss. So that's good too. Just got the research to go with it. So the first one says active listening, which he discussed. He's really good at. According to an article titled "The Art of Empathetic Listening," it says active listening is a powerful way to cultivate empathy. Active listening is listening to what the person is saying, but also responding back to what they're saying. Not, you know what I'm saying? Of course, it's, I sometimes people just need to vent, but a lot of times, and you may not always have the answer, but you can just kind of speak back to them what they're saying, and maybe suggest this and try that. But at the same time, remember that a lot of times they just want to open ear. Perspective, it says, according to an article published in the Greater Good magazine, How to Expand Empathy, practicing perspective taking is crucial in understanding others' viewpoints and basically putting yourself in their shoes, even if it's just for that scenario that day. The third one is emotional intelligence. This is a analysis published in 2019 analyzing data from over 1.6 million participants showed a positive correlation between emotional intelligence and job performance, leadership, cultivation, overall well-being. And emotional intelligence is just basically emotional awareness, and is an important factor in various aspects of life. So with emotional awareness, you are just aware of what's going on, how you feel. And I'm talking to myself, y'all. How you feeling, what you realizing, how you feeling this is how they feel in this instance. And this fourth one I think is a good one because it's really me to a T, and it's cultivate curiosity. It says in a series published by psychologist Todd Kashdan, researchers found that curious people made stronger and more enjoyable connections with strangers than their less curious counterparts. Over the course of 3 studies, participants filled questionnaires and measured curiosity and openness amongst other traits. Um, Not only did highly curious people connect more deeply with others and express more positive emotions in describing their experience, but the results suggested that they may be better at reading social cues. This comes from an article on Psychology Today. I know my answer, but how are you with reading, like reading a room and reading the social cues of somebody?
Uh, I'm real good because I was always a quiet person. I just look, listen, and learn, and basically I just watch their movement, watch their posture, their eyes, and I just take notes, and and that way I know how to move forward, and how to approach.
I think even with me, like although I'm, extra read all about it and I talk a lot and all that stuff, I'm still very observant and I read the room very well. Like even, you got to do that with stuff like this because say for instance, if I'm talking about a topic and I can tell a person gets quiet or they kind of I can say, okay, let's change the subject. You know what I mean? Even with little stuff like that. But you can tell when a conversation is going left, not even interview wise, but just going left in regular conversation with friends. It's so many ways to go about it. So I think that's definitely a good one. The fifth one says practicing non-judgment. It says that once you label your judgments, it says notice your judgments, then let go of them. Once you've labeled your judgments, let them go. This means releasing them and not allowing them to take hold. This can be done by simply acknowledging the judgment, then shifting your focus to something else. Um, okay. And the last one I'm going to read is empathy mapping. It is basically comes from it was developed by Dave Gray, who is the co-founder of strategy consultants Explain. And it says it is a powerful visualization tool designed to help teams use emotional intelligence to gain insight into a target group. This tool provides a series of prompts to identify target groups' thoughts, feelings, motivations, desires, and needs. So that's basically like a big old study. um, I definitely can say that this conversation, I've kind of seen more ways to go about this stuff with empathy and just stuff that, like you said, and it gives me, hope when you made comments like, sometimes I fall short. Well, that's just a part of the process. But at
Mhm.
least you're aware of it. You know what you're doing and know what not to do in some instances. So, um,
And one of the hardest ones to overcome, well, I know for me, was the step about judgment. Like you, it, like you basically got to put all your prejudice and biases aside. Like, cause I was put in a situation like that. Like, my dad, he was born in a different time, so he disliked Caucasian people for forever because that was just the time he was born in. He had like bad interactions with them. Like they just treated him badly back in the day. And I remember as a child, like he just expressed his hatred and everything, like his hatred and his dislike. And it was hard for not like to not let that enter my mind and my heart. As a child, that was hard. But I remember I went to the military and this guy was crying. Like it was the first time I saw a grown man cry. Like he was just crying and crying. And like my heart said to go walk over there and talk to him, but I guess my lack of empathy I just stayed in place and come to find out like his dad died that day. You know,
mm,
his dad died. That's why he was
wow.
and I should have went over there and told him like show him empathy like hey I understand your dad died like my grandmother died today too, which she really did. My great grandmother died that day, and I knew she died before I even got on the plane. I knew she died, but I should have went up there and told him and just empathized with him that I lost someone too that same exact day. But at the time, like I heard my dad's voice in my head, like, and then that just held me back from showing empathy to the other guy. And that was something I struggled with at that time.
I think too, even in cases like that, with the whole empathy thing, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode before you came on, about awkwardness for me, and
Hmm.
I was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing because
Hmm.
like you may get over there start stuttering, or you may say something. It's like, why would you say that? And it's just like, so it's sometimes I think for me that's where a lot of mine comes from, is just that awkward, like I don't know what to say.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, I believe everything can come like it's supposed to. It just takes practice. Um, so yeah, and it's funny you said that because you knew what to do supposedly in that situation, but didn't do it. But watch this, you have a redemption because now we're about to move into the final segment, which is called game time.
Hmm.
And the game is called empathy or empath me. So in this game, I'm gonna give you 5 scenarios, and I want you to tell me how you would show empathy to this person.
Okay.
All right, so you're stuck in traffic on your way to work, you strike up a conversation with a person to the car next to you. They're a doctor on their way to a life saving operation. As they express their frustration and worry, how would you show empathy?
Is a doctor on the way to emergency. How
A
would
life saving operation.
I save an emergency? Hmm. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, I think I'm gonna be a lifeline for this one. So this your only one. So I think that I would just speak words of encouragement to them. I think I would just tell that doctor like, "Oh, you got it. This is what you do. You know what I mean. This is something you didn't get to all them years of school for this. You gonna save their life, and they gonna remember you for the rest of their life. I say stuff like that. Um, I think about, and I said I was helping people with delusion, but I think about what was that episode 8? This is 11. Episode 8. I remember I talked about when I was at the gym, and some dude came up to me and was like, "Yeah, bro, everybody in the sauna looking at me crazy," and I'm like, "They looking at you crazy?" He said, "Yeah." So I was just like, and then he came back because I knew it was something to it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm in there singing." I said, "You in there singing? They looking at you crazy?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Man, they just waiting on you to drop the mixtape. That's all." So in that case, I spoke life to him, although, I don't know if he's a singer or if he should be,
Mhm.
but it was just a case of something like that where you basically gassing people up. Let's move to the next one. So, a new coworker from a different country just moved to your city. They're feeling homesick and finding it hard to adapt to a new culture. As they share their feelings, how would you empathize with them?
I was sure about a time when I was new to an area, and I would just let them know how I made friends. You know, probably bring them to a local spot, like a place where there's a lot of people, where they can mingle and just meet new people.
Okay, that's a good answer. Birthday blues. So it says you bump into an old friend at the coffee shop. It's their birthday, but they're feeling down because their family forgot to wish them happy birthday. How would you empathize with their feelings?
I would just basically just I would just let them know maybe something came up, or just maybe that person had an emergency, something came up. Like, don't just shut them out, or don't just hold a grudge right away. Just get clarification from them, because anything can happen.
Me personally, I would think in this situation, maybe they're throwing you a surprise. But that's
Mhm.
just me. All right. This is gonna be the last one. So it says a close friend has a high stakes presentation at work. They prepared, but they're nervous and worried about how it will go. They come to you to ask you for any tips or advice. So they just kind of venting. What would you say to them?
If they worry, first I would just suggest that we pray, to put them at ease. I would give them tips just to be confident, just to speak clearly, just reassure them that they have it. And all the worrying is just unnecessary.
All right, good stuff. All right, so final thing for the people. Remember, y'all win money. Question and challenge for the week. After everything presented, how do you plan to show empathy this week? Make sure y'all answer on Instagram. You can do it on TikTok or even YouTube. And you enter for the drawing to win either $10, 25, $15, or $25. So keep that in mind. My boy, anything else you want to share or let the people know before you go today?
It's just empathy is it's not easy because you will get tested. You know, it'll come at a time when you don't want to show it. Honestly,
Hmm.
that's how it came to me. Most of the time when I was stubborn or prideful, it just it's okay to open up, and be vulnerable. You know, we don't always have to be strangers. It's there. There's nothing wrong with connecting and bonding.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. So this has been a good one. Tune in next week. Another great episode. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And I love us for real.